Hi everybody, this is Kevin and welcome back to another video. And today I would like to share my thoughts once again on Fate Grand Order, the Epic of Remnant, now that I've completed the second Pseudo-Singularity, the subterranean world of folklore, Agartha, also known as the Women of Agartha. And I gotta say, man, I love Fate Grand Order. If you couldn't already tell, I've done a number of videos. I should make a playlist at this point, but my most popular Fate Grand Order video was the one I did a few months ago after completing Part 1. And I resented the fact that I didn't do videos on each individual singularity, because Part 1, there's 9 singularities in total, counting the prologue and the final singularity of the 7 in between. And there's just so much to talk about, so I feel I didn't do Part 1 justice. And so to make up for that, I decided, you know what, after I complete each singularity, I'll do a separate video, to which I did one a few weeks ago after completing Shinjuku. And I gotta say, on that Part 1 video, I had a bunch of comments, mostly positive. They're all pretty much positive. I'd say 99% of them were positive, but I had some back and forth with people saying that, oh, the Epic of Remnant, you could skip that. But then other people said, don't skip it, it's canon, it bridges the gap between Part 1 and Part 2, to which I agree with that, especially after completing Shinjuku and now Agartha, because, you know, the story continues. And how can you skip 4 chapters? There's 4 pseudo-singularities here, and I absolutely loved Shinjuku. I would say that's easily a top 5 story arc so far. And Agartha, you know, it's not bad, but it's definitely not the best. So we're going to get into that in this video. And it's funny because the people who did praise Epic of Remnant, they all pretty much said that Shinjuku's the best and Agartha's the worst. So if Agartha's the worst, then I have very high hopes for the other two. And even still, I had a great time going through Agartha. So spoiler warning from here forward, because this is essentially Chapter 11 in the Fate Grand Order story. And I can't really talk about it without talking about previous events or what happens here. All I can say is, you know, go play Fate Grand Order right now. It's a visual novel, the Fate series. I love it, man. And if you're a fan of visual novels or the Fate series, and even history, like some people will bash Fate and say, oh, it doesn't represent history well. I think it does, but, you know, you got to play it for yourself to truly appreciate it, I guess. So, again, going back to events that happened in Part 1, at the end of that story arc, Mash has a condition now where she can no longer ray shift, and so she's staying behind in Chaldea with Da Vinci and giving Senpai Fujimaro support, of course, encouraging him and being a pivotal part in the story, but she doesn't actually ray shift like she did in Part 1, although you can still use her as a unit in battle. And I mentioned that in Shinjuku, how for story purposes, maybe it would have been better if, you know, you can't use her in the party. But she's such a good unit, I always have to bring her along. She's great for defensive purposes, a great noble phantasm, so Miss Mash is always in the party. The absolute best Kohai to Senpai, and waifu material, that's for sure. So, it starts right here, lamenting the fact, I just wish I could fight alongside you again, Senpai. And then we have Da Vinci declaring it, given all of that, we will call the operation to eliminate the pseudo-singularities Remnant Order. Oh, the Epic of Remnant and Fate Grand Order mashed together. Pun intended. So we make our way to the second pseudo-singularity in Agartha. And much like Shinjuku, where we're reunited with old friends, in that case it was mostly the Alter, Saber Alter, Jeanne d'Arc Alter, and Emiya Alter. And then of course the new villains. And I like that with the new villains, how that they keep their names hidden. And, you know, in the previous story arcs in Part 1, they kept the names hidden, but you knew who they were if you're familiar with Fate. In this case, a lot of these are newer characters that were never in, like, Fate Apocrypha or Fate Extra, things like that. They're new to Fate Grand Order, I would assume, unless they're from light novels or manga or whatever. So they keep their names hidden until they're revealed in the story. And even if you summon them, like I summoned one of them, the caster on the Nightless City, and then her name wasn't revealed until I got to the story arc here. Similar to the Avenger of Shinjuku. But we make our way and are reunited with an old ally, and it shocked me that we didn't see him until this part of the story, but it's our favorite femboy, Astolfo, that's me! This looked like it was going to be fun, so I thought I'd come along and help out. So, the theme here, with Shinjuku, we had a bunch of edgelords. In this case, the women of Agartha. A lot of the villains are women. And then to counteract that, we have the femboys and the younger characters. So, you'll see that in a moment. The next one to join us is Chevalier Dion, who is the White Lily of France. And you know, Astolfo is a character in history that I think his fate counterpart is more famous than his historical counterpart. But I looked up Chevalier Dion, and he was a French spy who cross-dressed to, like, infiltrate and get information on people back in the 17th or 18th century. So, it's funny how they include him there. And then we also have a younger version of Fergus, which Fergus appeared during the main story with Singularity 5 as his normal counterpart, and here we have a younger version of him. So it's cool to see him right there join the party. And then we're confronted by the first villain here, the Berserker of El Dorado. Like I mentioned before, the names are hidden until we get the grand reveal, but for now it's just the Berserker of El Dorado. And she says, you can regale Hades with the tale of your bravery once I have sent you to the underworld. So, gives you some little hints there of Hades. Could that have to do with Greek mythology? Who knows? And then a new ally comes to save the day. The Rider of Resistance, who saves us. And as you saw, you know, we have a bunch of women, the Berserker of El Dorado. And in Agartha here, which is, they call it the subterranean world of Agartha, is also mythological thing. It's basically like the hollow earth theory. So again, it's interesting how they all bring these things together. And we meet a mysterious girl who shows up, and then she appears later on in the story. Then at the very end, again, they're hiding her name. And then we are confronted by what appears to be a familiar face. And we remember the fact that we had a run-in with the altars in Shinjuku. And so we think this woman right here is Frances Drake Alter, when in all actuality she says her name is Dahoot, the pirate princess and the rider of Ys. Which I'm like, Ys? Wait a minute, Falcom? And this came out before, because the pirate princess in Ys, you think of Karja from Ys 10, but no, this story arc came out before Ys 10 was even a thing, so I thought that was funny. It's kind of funny because Dahoot here is basically the alter version of Frances Drake, but I don't believe she's an actual servant in the game. She just appears as a character in this story arc, as does another character we're going to see in a little while. So after our battle with Dahoot, we make our way to the Nightless City, and to infiltrate, again, we had the two femboys. We have them show up again, and Astolfo blushing. I am pretty cute, huh? It's a little embarrassing for someone to just blurt it out, though. And because there's a bunch of ladies running around, they're always attacking the men here. And so because the two of them are femboys, they decide, oh, we're going to have to blend in. And they don their new outfits here. Astolfo as a sailor and Dion as a maid. And they're all well, Astolfo looks like he's having fun, but Dion is, oh no, I can't be wearing this. And I believe you can unlock these outfits in Da Vinci's shop if you have these servants summoned. Sadly, I don't have Astolfo. Astolfo is a 4-star rider, but Dion is a 4-star saber. I do have him, so I think you can unlock the outfits if you're interested in that. And they have a run-in with a bunch of assassins here, the Torturer, which gives you some foreshadowing to some of the next villains. And we're greeted with the Nightless City, which this has some lore with ancient China. And then the mysterious girl we met earlier is the assassin of the Nightless City. And we also meet the caster of the Nightless City, who I got her. She's a 5-star caster, really good unit. And I got her, some months ago. I have quite a bit of good servants. I have Gilgamesh, I have Ereshkigal, I have Narrow Bride. I like to save my Saint Courts for the banners, and typically if you hold enough, you can draw who you want. So I did pull her. We have a battle against the assassin and caster, and then after the battle is over, I don't... Fate has a bunch of these battles where you don't have to win, you just have to outlast it for 10 turns or whatever, and then it just ends. And I think this was the case because we have another familiar friend showing up, and it's Hercules! He shows up! And remember, we had the Berserker of El Dorado mentioned Hades. And so the Greek mythology. So of course Hercules shows up, and he's gone completely berserk because he is the berserker class, and starts wreaking havoc. But it's enough for us to escape. And then we get the true name reveals with the assassin of the Nightless City as Wu Zetian. And in our escape, the caster of the Nightless City helps us, and then she reveals her name, Sherazade, hopefully I pronounced her name correctly, caster in name only, whose sole talent lies in spinning tales, and this has to do with Arabian Nights. And we also get her true name, which gets it revealed for me as well in the servant I have, and then I think I unlocked her interlude because I had her maxed out. So we have the Rider of Resistance again. We're like, all right, we're still alive. Our legs are going to take us where we need to go, so let's go find the demon god Pillar and save the world. So what happens, because he's the Rider of Resistance, he has a boat, you know, with the different riders, whether they have chariots or horses, whatever. Astolfo has Hippogriff. He has a boat. Again, you can sort of connect the dots a little, and based on, he has a sailor hat. So on his boat, Astolfo says, okay, I got to get back in my sailor outfit, and Miss Mash is, oh, come on, Astolfo, we got to take this serious. So we start fighting against Hercules, who goes by Hercules Megalos now. And again, he's gone, it kind of reminds me of the Shadow from Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel. But we fight him. And again, we confronted Hercules in, I believe it was the third Singularity with Francis Drake and the other Greek, well, Francis Drake isn't necessarily a Greek hero, but there was the other Greek heroes with Jason from Jason and the Argonauts, Hector, Medea Lily, and a few others. And, you know, we already battled Hercules before, but then he helped us in the final Singularity, but he's gone completely berserk now, and you fight him, and the tale of Hercules and the 12 lives. I love this little detail where you battle him, and there's a sprite. You get an idea for the battles. And again, of course, I have Miss Mash in her bikini, but you see he has guts applied, I think it's 11 times, because it's the 12 lives of Hercules. You got to defeat him 12 times. And this is another one where I think you don't have to defeat him, but you just have to outlast him for 20 turns, because it's pretty powerful, man. You're going to defeat him 12 times? Good luck with that. But then after that, the Rider of Resistance, and his reason for why I didn't reveal his name, like with James Moriarty, he was secretly planning to backstab us from the beginning, but in this case, the Rider of Resistance had amnesia because we're in a JRPG. But we get this keynote moment where he remembers his name. He goes, I finally remembered that I've gotten through storms like you countless times, so stay out of my way. The new world I've been dreaming of is finally within my reach. I'm putting my anchor down right here. I will show this storm that I'm already at my destination. This marks the first step to the end of my long voyage. And we get the release of his noble phantasm, which summons a ship of its own. Santa Maria, drop anchor! And we get the reveal that he is the heroic spirit Christopher Columbus. That's right, I finally remember my name. I'm Columbus, and it's like, holy shit, man, Christopher Columbus in Fate Grand Order. I love it, because you never know who you're going to get, man. It's so key now. I absolutely love it. So that's where you get the true name reveal. And it's interesting because the other servants we saw, there were 4 stars. Sherazade, she's a 5-star. He's only a 3-star, and I'm thinking, how come I haven't summoned him yet? But maybe he's one that unlocks after completing this story arc, because that was the case with Emiya Alter, who I think is only a 4-star servant as well. So then, after making our way through Hercules, we see this one again, the Berserker of El Dorado, and taking her anger against Hercules, she goes, I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you, Achilles! And calls Hercules Achilles, and all our heroes are shocked, like, what are you talking about, lady? This is Hercules, this isn't Achilles. So, there's that. And then we get the reveal of her as Penthesilea. Hopefully I pronounced her name correctly, another Greek hero. And then after our escape, we're on Columbus's boat, the Santa Maria, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. I mean, we all know these nursery rhymes, don't we? I do. That's what they taught us in school. That's one of the few things I remember. But I'm just kidding. Anyway, so after all this, we escape and then make our way back to Dahoot, who we fight her again, and then it sort of jogs her memory And she recalls her adventures as Francis Drake, so it does sort of confirm that she is the alter version of Francis Drake, but, you know, there's still no servant that's Francis Drake alter, or Dahoot herself. But, you know, she's like, oh, I met you somewhere before, it doesn't matter, I'm a pirate, and this is the life I signed up for. So she fades away, and another Kino scene where Bond starts playing, probably one of my favorite OSTs in Fake Grand Order. But she gives us these devices to sort of control the other servants, to which, because Christopher Columbus is a rogue servant, he agrees to bind Hercules to him so that we don't put too much strain on Fujimura, myself, or Senpai, the self-insert character, you know? So with all that, and of course, after getting attacked by the Berserker of El Dorado, and before that by Hercules, Fujimura was knocked out, and then we have our trusty Kohai, Miss Mash, who wakes us up and says, this is your trusty Kohai, master. It's me, Mash Kyriolite. Oh, thank goodness. And I always love when Miss Mash chimes in. I absolutely love her, man. She is definitely top-tier waifu material. Oh, I always love when she chimes in. But, you know, we have Mash and Da Vinci always checking on us. And at this point in the story, our good friend Sherlock Holmes joins the party, and he starts shipping Mash and Fujimura by saying, at this moment, my only conclusion is that she cares for you a great deal. So he's keeping the shipping going. You gotta love it. And with that, we continue our assault, going back to face off against the Berserker of El Dorado. And to do that, she has all these Amazonian warriors who are working for her and defending the temple there. And so, to draw their attention, Astolfo and Dion are like, okay, we'll take on all these Amazon warriors. You guys go in there and defeat the Berserker. And a Kino moment right here where Dion says, it truly feels as though I've become a part of one of those stories myself. And he unleashes his noble phantasm. Long live the Order of the White Lily! Fleur de Lis! So then we defeat Penthesilea, and she realizes that Hercules is an Achilles and makes amends and fades away. And then, when we think it's all said and done, we got to retrieve the Holy Grail and then find the Demon God Pillar. Our dear friend Christopher Columbus betrays us. He betrays us, and he uses Hercules against us. And look at that face, man. And I gotta say, my biggest nitpick of this whole story arc is we had that whole Kino reveal of Christopher Columbus remembering his many voyages, discovering the new world, using his noble phantasm, and then he betrays us, and they do the same old trope, which I should have expected, where it's like, oh, he's the conquistador, he's killed millions, he's just a murderer. So they did that trope, which honestly, like, come on, let's make Christopher Columbus into the hero, because without him, I probably wouldn't be here today. You know, I wouldn't be in the United States and being an American if it wasn't for Christopher Columbus discovering the new world. So, I don't know, it's kind of a lame trope in my opinion, because it's very predictable, and it would have been cool if he was just a noble hero. And, you know, they've had other villains sort of become good guys in this series, but Christopher Columbus stays a bad guy, and just a generic betrayal. So, but you get, like, his weird face there, like, what's up with that? And you get a flashback that he was faking his amnesia, and he actually ran into Helena Blavatsky, the occultist, who is a caster. And they mentioned before there were other heroic spirits along with Astolfo, Dion, and Fergus, and that was Blavatsky, who he murdered, or so we think. And that's how he got the men to join his resistance, and he was buying his time for the ultimate move to betray us. So then we fight him, now having control of Hercules, and it's just funny to see the different sprites. Like, look how little Christopher Columbus is compared to Hercules, and then us, of course. But his noble phantasm is pretty badass, I will say. So with that, we do defeat him, and then after betraying us so quickly, he dies just like that. He dies and fades away. So they hyped him up. He had a great reveal of his true name and his noble phantasm. Then it was a lame betrayal, and then he just dies. So I don't know. Columbus, he had potential to be pretty cool, but they kind of just were like, oh, all right, let's do the same old trope. So the true villain, who's been with us the entire time, is revealed to be Sherazade. And she says she created Agartha with her own noble phantasm, the stories, in a way to erode the real world. And her motivation is that she didn't want to die. she's seen all these different tales. Everyone dies in the end, and she doesn't want to die. She just wants to live for eternity, I guess. So, for what started pretty well, has kind of an anticlimactic ending, as we're going to get to. But there are still some keynote moments, because we haven't talked about Fergus at all. But what happens is she basically turns Agartha into Laputa, which is this floating island. And that's also been in history before. And Miyazaki, that's what Castle in the Sky is based on. So she does that. We have the ultimate battle. And then Fergus shows up, who has been there and said a few things. But here he gets his moment to shine where he says, "I won't let you destroy the world simply because you don't want to die." And then Astolfo, "Okay then, time to bust out all the cliches about how I've been holding back this whole time." So this isn't Astolfo's final form. He was just holding back. And of course, we have to run into the demon god, so we get the reveal of demon god Phoenix. "Phoenix I am truth, reunion, one of the 72 demon god pillars." And then he turns into his human form, and this is, I guess, just to make him sound all weird, having the different fonts and colors of the text. "I thought we had talked about our fear of death, about the cruelty that inevitably accompanies life." So we fight him. We actually fight him twice, and again, you can't beat him. I think he has guts that just keeps getting applause. You literally can't beat him. You just have to outlast for, a couple turns, 20, 25 turns, whatever it is. And then Wu Zetian shows up again, who we thought died, but nope. She's the assassin, so she can conceal herself, and she shows up again, and she's going to help us. So she uses her Noble Phantasm, which is like this poison that's holding the demon god pillar down, but again, we still keep attacking, can't defeat him. And then Fergus gets his moment to shine, where he unveils his sword, Cowardbolg, and he gets it out, ready to go. "As such, I shall use it to crush both the demon god who eternally wanders between life and death. Cowardfelch, Cowardbolg!" And he does his Noble Phantasm attack, defeats the demon god pillar once and for all, and has this last pep talk with Sherazade. "It's because death inevitably comes at the end that you have to make sure you enjoy life." Yeah, like there's no sense in having eternal life when everything comes to an end. It's just not possible. You have to accept death one way or another. So I did think this was a great speech at the end from him. And I also enjoyed this moment too, because those who follow me know that I refer to MASH as Miss MASH. And that dates back to the 5th Singularity with Nightingale, where she called MASH Miss MASH, and I just always thought it was a cute name, so I keep calling her that. In this case, Fergus says, "Ha! If I inspired that sort of reaction in you, Miss MASH, that's a fine compliment indeed." Because, yeah, Miss MASH was chiming in like, "Oh, Fergus, you've grown so much in such a short amount of time. You're great." And he calls her Miss MASH, so I love that right there. And so we defeat Sherazade and the demon god pillar, and then everyone fades away. We have Wu Zetian fading away, saying that we could give her a head pat before she goes. And then same with Fergus. "To be honest, I enjoyed adventuring in this underground world with you all. I have no regrets." And then, as the world is collapsing, we can't figure out how to escape quite yet. None other than Helena Blavatsky shows up, and she's here to teleport us out of here. So she did actually die. So we escape. Agartha comes crumbling down, and we fly off on Astolfo's hippogriff. So what a way to end it. And then when we're back in the real world, we see the aged up Fergus, and he's just all horny. "I sense a beautiful woman nearby." Which, that was in the end during his pep talk too. He was getting all horny for Sherazade, because, I mean, you can see her outfit. God damn. But yeah, Agartha, I did enjoy it. I mean, when people say this is the worst of the Epic of Remnant, I do believe it, because, Shinjuku was so good, it's going to be difficult for the other two, Pseudo-Singularity 3 and 4 to top Shinjuku, in my opinion, because of how Kino that was. So this probably is the worst by default if it comes to the Epic of Remnant. But it was still fun. I enjoyed most of it. I really enjoyed the reveal of Christopher Columbus and the whole thing with Hercules and all that. But I felt like his betrayal was just too sudden. And again, they did the same sorry trope of, oh, Columbus is a conquistador. He killed all the natives, and oh, he's just going to do that again. I don't know, man. You could have done something better. And then same thing, like Sherazade as the final villain. She's just sitting in the background, and it kind of didn't make sense for her to show up. I mean, they explained it well enough in that she wanted to live forever, but still, it seemed kind of like, all right, we got to wrap this story up one way or another. But it was still fun. I enjoyed the Femboy squad with Astolfo and Chevalier Dion, especially their standoff when they're fending off the Amazonians. And, of course, Fergus having his moment to shine, essentially defeating the demon god Pillar. So, I'm not quite sure what the next Pseudo-Singularity is, the third one. I haven't looked yet. I just wanted to record this before I continue. But I love Fate Grand Order, and I look forward to continuing with the third Pseudo-Singularity, finishing up the Epic of Remnant, and then eventually moving on to Part 2. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon. Everybody have a great day, and peace out.
Nighty night.